Hello. It's been a while since I've used text-to-speech, but hi. First thing I would like to mention, new profile picture as you could probably tell. Or, unless you've never seen this channel before. Lately my content has been mostly music-related or some memes. I sort of missed the explanation videos I did, so here I am. I honestly didn't know what to explain as I was making this, so let's talk about the history of America. This is Christopher Columbus. Obviously. He was the first person to discover America. Second one to discover America. Besides the Mesoamerican natives and such. He was an Italian explorer and navigator from the Republic of Genoa, a maritime republic. One day he decided to, instead of take the quote-unquote long way to get to India, he could go the other way. Simple. Prior to this, the Europeans had a safe way to India under the Mongol Empire's hegemony in Asia. However, due to the fall of Constantinople in 1453, the Silk Road was closed to Christian traders. In about 1484, he proposed the idea of going there to King John II of Portugal, and his advisors refused. However, he again appealed to court and it was unsuccessful. Not long afterwards, Bartolomeu Dias returned to Portugal after his successful rounding of the southern tip of Africa. What a show-off. He then went to the Catholic monarchs of Spain, King Ferdinand and his Queen Isabella, and they eventually decided to sponsor his voyage. After some time, they discovered it was a new land to them, a new world, if you will. This new world became known as the Americas, named after Amerigo Vespucci, who was also an Italian explorer and navigator born in Florence. He was the first to realize that they had not landed in Asia but a new continent. Also, key detail, Christopher Columbus was the first European to record his arrival in the West Indies, today known as the Caribbean. Anyways, after some years of colonization from Spain, England, and France, British America was born by, well, the British. But, what does this have to do with the United States, exactly? Well, this has just been background information, and I will now tell the beginnings of colonial America. In 1606, King James of England granted charters to both the Plymouth Company and the London Company in hopes of establishing permanent settlements in the New World. The London Company, made of rich and wealthy businessmen, established the colony of Virginia in 1607, the first permanently settled English colony in the New World. The Plymouth Company founded their own colony as well, but it doesn't really matter because it was short-lived. I won't talk about all the colonies and such because there were many that were merged, abandoned, and just in general, so many. But I will talk about some of them. The Plymouth Colony was established in 1620, was a colony settled by Puritan separatists, or the Pilgrims. The Dutch, Swedish, and French also established some successful colonies in that area around the same time as the English, but the colonies eventually became under English rule. The establishment of the Roanoke Colony, Roanoke was an attempt by Sir Walter Raleigh to found the first permanent English settlement in America. The Roanoke Colony was founded in 1585 and was an unsuccessful attempt to form a permanent English settlement by Sir Walter Raleigh. It was later visited by a ship in 1590 and they found that the colonists appeared to be missing under unknown circumstances. It was later named the Lost Colony. The province of Georgia, which was established in 1732, was the last of the original 13 states to be established. Before I get on with this, the reason why it's New Jersey is because East Jersey and West Jersey were combined to form the province of New Jersey. A popular way for money at the time was, slavery. Plantations were good for money, bad for working conditions, to nobody's surprise. But anyways, let's start to simplify this era and jump to the strange acts imposed by the British. The first act that angered the colonists was the Sugar Act. The British legislation wanted to end the smuggling trade in sugar and molasses from the French and Dutch West Indies to essentially create a monopoly in the American colonist market to pay off the British debt and such following the French and Indian War. Oh, also, the colonists assisted the British in the French and Indian War and were not happy at the fact that they couldn't have any land past the Proclamation Line of 1763. I'll summarize the rest of the acts. The Townshend Act initiated taxes on glass, lead, paint, paper, and tea. The Stamp Act required the colonists pay taxes on a lot of printed stuff they used. The tax also included fees for playing cards, dice, and newspapers. The Boston Massacre, also known as the Incident on King Street to the British, was an event in Boston on March 5, 1770, where 9 British soldiers shot a crowd of 300 to 400 colonists who were harassing them by insulting them and throwing things like snowballs, stones, and sticks. This, of course, caused an outrage. 3 years later, a group called the Sons of Liberty, which operated in Boston, a sort of confusing and complicated loosely organized political organization, decided to protest against the Tea Act by boarding onto British ships, boarded the ships throwing the chests of tea into the Boston harbor. A classic American mindset, God bless. Anyways, the British government considered the so-called Tea Party an act of treason and of course did not take it well, for it was a lot of tea and a lot of money that could have been made down the drain. Or should I say down the bay, or ocean? Lake? I don't know. They took the "no taxation without representation" slogan very seriously. Anyways, a jump later and the American Revolution has just begun after the shot that was heard around the world was shot in the battles of Lexington and Concord. On June 14, 1775, the Second Continental Congress created the Continental Army, and a pretty important guy named John Adams nominated George Washington, somebody who had fought in the French and Indian War, as commander-in-chief, the main reason being his military experience and his belief that a Virginian could better unite the colonies. He was elected the next day. Washington appeared before the Congress in uniform and gave a speech on June 16, initially declining a salary. Washington was commissioned on June 19 and appointed General and Commander-in-Chief of the Army of the United Colonies, yada yada yada. He was told to take charge of the siege of Boston on June 22. After many loyalists and political opinions and such, and people offering the British peace but with, some would say, demands, the Declaration of Independence was created from June to July 1776 and was supposed to take place on July 2 but ended up being ratified on July 4. This, however, did not stop the war. The war/revolution had many high and low moments and was overall a big period in American history, well, of course. The war officially ended in 1783, everybody was happy, they had their own self-sovereignty, they were happy with the new Articles of Confederation, and oh, wait. Turns out the Articles of Confederation gave the states too much power over the national government. The nation didn't even feel united. Many other issues with the Articles of Confederation caused revolutions and protests. Oh no, just like when the land was under British rule, sort of. They had to change or remove it. So they removed it and replaced it with the US Constitution we know and, probably, love. This new document granted unalienable rights, separation of powers, right to self-defense, and more. During this time as well, there was quite a lot of national debt after the war, which was sorted into three categories, and the first was, the $12 million owed to foreigners who aided and fought with the states. Alexander Hamilton was the first treasury and had been focused on the finance of the nation. He came up with a great financial plan which I believe is still in somewhat use to this day. That's about all for today's video. I know it was or seems short to you guys, but to me it was a long time to make this honestly. Anyways, bye. Yeet.